Chung, your go-to for all things marketing, mindset, and manifestation. I grew my online business from 0 to beyond 6 figures in 8 months. My purpose is to empower women to step into the highest, most aligned versions of themselves. If you are ready to take charge of your life, learn how to design a wildly successful business, and leave limiting beliefs behind, you've come to the right place. You will learn the actionable tips and step-by-step strategies on money, manifestation, and social media. It's time to step into your role as boss, to raise your vibration and tap into your unlimited potential today. Welcome to the Social Reset Podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to be here. We are getting close to 100 episodes, which is insane. I'm so grateful for every single one of you who have been listening from the very beginning, or maybe you just found me recently. And either way, it doesn't matter. You're loved so much for tuning in and for supporting this show and for supporting my content and my business. And it just means so much to me. And if you have been impacted in any way from my episodes, I would love if you would leave a 5-star review on Apple, on iTunes, and this is just the way that people can find me and find my podcast, and it would just mean so much, and would love to personally thank you if you send me a screenshot of the message, or if you end up leaving like a little review or just the 5 stars. It just means so much to me. So I want to say thank you. I'll plan something special for the 100th episode, but until then, we have a couple of juicy topics and discussions to cover in the meantime. So this one was actually, this is inspired by a recent story series. Not story series. I mean, I was answering like Q&As on my story, and it all ended up kind of finding its way into one specific theme, which is spiritual awakening and star seeds, which I guess I haven't really talked about much on the podcast, which is interesting because like it comes up a lot in conversation with my coaching clients, but sometimes things just kind of don't make it onto the podcast because I forget, or for whatever reason, it just kind of gets slipped inside. I really do want to create more content around spirituality. Of course, business is going to be a core of what I'm teaching, at least in this season of my business. I still feel very drawn to that, but I do want to also incorporate more spirituality and content around that, because that's where I feel so led. So I wanted to share my own story of my spiritual awakening, and really awakenings, multiple, and how it has shaped and changed my entire life. So I actually went to a private Christian school growing up. And I was raised as a Christian. I would go to church every single Sunday. I actually led small groups and Bible studies, and I was on the worship team, and I went to different like discipling camps and learned how to be a disciple. There was a part of my time where I wanted to be a pastor. I was like really deep into it, right? Even when I like sought out counseling, I would find a religious counselor. I ended up going to church like 2-3 times a week. I was very serious about it because it was the way I was raised. It was where I found my community. It was kind of all I had in my like junior high and high school years, especially because I went to a private Christian school. That was all I'd ever known. So you have to really kind of, especially if you grew up atheist or without a religion, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around how that's even possible. Like, this was all that I was ever exposed to. My family was religious, and then at and so at home, we would be talking about God and Jesus and the church and the Bible. And then I would go to school and actually take classes. So we were all mandatory. We had to take Bible classes, and all of us had to deliver sermons as a part of that, and memorize Bible verses and have tests on the material in the Bible. Not only that, every single week we had to go to something called chapel, which was like a mini church with a sermon and a pastor, and sit there and worship as a part of the school curriculum. So this was just how I believed everybody showed up in their lives. I wasn't taught or told otherwise. And there was never a conversation of like, how do you feel about this, right? Do you feel like this is something you want to continue doing? Is this something that you feel strongly about? There was never a discussion. It was just, this was what was normal. Just like there was never a discussion of like, Tiffany, would you like to go to college? Is college something you'd like to pursue? It was always get good grades. You need to get into a good college. You need to score well on the SATs. That's what was drilled into me from actually a very young age. I would go to SAT prep classes and all of those things growing up because it was just what was expected of me culturally, familially, and, here in this case, religiously. So that was my upbringing. And of course, with, not of course, but shouldn't say that, but like in the specific way that I was taught religion, there was a lot of shame around sexuality. And so like, sexuality in terms of like your sexual, preference, as well as who you were within your own sexuality, right? You were you're expected to be a virgin until you were married. And then, of course, as most of you know, I became a teen mom. And so what ended up happening was my childhood church that I was going to for so many years and that my family would go to, everybody essentially stopped talking to my family except for like one or two families. None of my youth leaders said anything to me, even though we would literally see each other like 3 times a week for years on end. And as soon as I got pregnant, it was literally radio silence. And yeah, people were talking behind my back and my parents' back. And there was a lot of shame around like me being pregnant. There is also a lot of shame around abortion. So it's like a lose-lose situation. I also came out as queer. So I identify as just sexually fluid and queer. I like who I like. I like the wine, not the label. If you watch Schitt's Creek, I don't drink wine. I'm sober, so that doesn't always apply to me. But you get what I'm saying, right? I'm just attracted to energies and personalities. I think gender is a social construct. It's just something that's man-made. I don't believe that gender actually exists. That's a whole other thing. I also don't believe time exists and a bunch of other structures that we have in our world. I'm just attracted to souls and energies and vibes, and I like who I like. And yeah, and that's how I lead with my sexual preference and who I want to get in bed with and whatnot. So anyway, that was all very very clouded around shame when I was growing up. And so anything outside of what was in the Bible, anything like girl on girl, even the Harry Potter books, what else? Like anything related to like witches or witchcraft or tarot cards or anything that just seemed different was demonic. Right? Open relationships, polyamorous relationships, anything that was like anything related to sex, and like sex toys, etc. Exploring your sexuality, anything that was like mythological or like magic related was all just deemed as demonic. And this started with the church years and years ago. This also comes from colonialism, where there are tribes and communities, indigenous tribes, that practice things like chanting and different rituals and ceremonies, where eventually at some time the white man came in and said, I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that, we're getting rid of that, we're burning people at the stake for that, and deciding like what was okay and what wasn't okay, right? And so what we see now in a lot of churches is that type of display where like crystals and manifestation and any of that type of thinking is bad. And what you have to do instead is pray. And instead of going to counseling, you should just pray. And instead of going to therapy and getting coaching, you should just pray. And like, you should just pray away your panic attacks and pray away the gay and pray away all these things, right? Rather than actually assisting people with the help that they need, or even allowing them to actually have the ability to work on their self-development and allow themselves to evolve as people that are able to be self-actualized. What I found a lot of the time was like throughout my whole childhood, all I was ever taught to think about was, what does Jesus want for me, instead of what do I want for me? Right? And I hope you can just hear my like frustration and also pain and trauma in that, because it is really traumatic. Right? When you're thinking about, what does this person want from me? What is going to please Jesus over and over and over again, and forcing myself to self-betray over and over again, that my natural pleasures, that my natural urges are all bad and sinful, and everything that I do is sinful, and everything that I think is sinful. That's a really, really, really harmful and toxic way to raise kids and to be in environment, right? That's just my personal opinion. And I think can just be extremely, it can be extremely toxic. I think that there are some ways to approach religion that don't include that, but I honestly don't see that. And that, again, is just my personal opinion. Like, I think that that could exist, but that's just hasn't been my experience. And that's not what I see. If that's what you do, amazing, right? More power to you. But yeah, I just don't feel, I just feel like religion is man-made, and organized religion is something that we, as a society, don't necessarily need. And that's why I stepped away from it. And when I stepped away from it, it was very gradual, right? Like, I would stop going to church, and then I would kind of start doing it again, and then I would step away, and then I'd be like, oh, I really miss the community, you know? And then I would go back to it, and I would be like, oh, I really miss like the songs and like worship songs and stuff like that, because there were aspects of there's even aspects of Christianity that I still kind of hold into. Like, I still believe that Jesus was a person that existed. I just don't think that he wanted an entire religion created after him. And I've had like very distinct downloads and clarity around this that I feel very, very certain upon, for me personally, right? And so, of course, this is like my experience. If this triggers you, I would say that's a good thing, so you can kind of dig deeper into like your own faith and values and what that means for you. But yeah, I mean, I'm not here to, please anybody. And so if this triggers somebody, then it triggers you, right? Like, that's something that you get to look deeper into. I get triggered all the time, and I always find ways to kind of look within myself to see where this is coming from, and just be kind to myself in that process. So after all of that, and I finally was like, all right, fuck the church and fuck Christianity and all of this stuff, that I was just like, okay, I'm finally done. I began having spiritual awakenings, and it just kind of happened in between that process. I've also just had like a string of things happen to me where like I did try to go to this virtual church in the middle of COVID, and then this woman reached out and was like, oh, why do you want to go to church? Or tell me a little bit about you. And I told her about like, I just recently came out, and some of the other people from my other church were just like homophobic as fuck. And then she was like, oh yeah, well, God loves all sinners, right? Like no one sin is like worse than the rest. And I was like, oh, fuck no. I was like, okay, I'm definitely not going to your church, and I'm definitely blocking and deleting you from my existence. And yeah, just like over and over and over, my identity and who I am, and the questions I ask about religion, the questions I ask about God, the questions I ask about Jesus and the Bible, which don't even get me started on the Bible. I actually went to, my college was actually a Catholic college. They didn't force us to do anything Catholic-y, which is why I went. But I actually took like a religion class there, where the stuff that I learned about the Bible and some of the way that like the way that we think the Bible is, like just the things that I know, I could never, ever, ever consider myself a religious Christian ever again. And I would never teach or encourage anybody to do the things that they do. Again, this is just my personal opinion. I won't go into it. The class was very, very in-depth, where we learned and researched passages over and over, where I was just like, I absolutely cannot associate with this religion ever, right? And a lot of what they say is from the Bible is just a lot of very contradicted, watered, kind of like telephone passed down from person to person to person, and then rewritten by white men before it was mass produced into the hands of Americans. So it's not even actually what they think it is. There's just a lot. I mean, if you want to go and do your own research, there's a lot of really great TikTok creators that create content around this. There's a great like YouTubers and different people who have made like videos and I'm sure articles and different blog posts and things like that, open for discussion on a different platform about this. But that was really what just like ended up drawing me away fully, was just like I just knew too much. I knew too much and I could not do it anymore. And a lot of people who were raised Christian and religious experience those same emotions and feelings. And it wasn't that I was looking for another religion or I was looking for something else to believe in. It was that I started to literally awaken into like who I was meant to be and why my soul chose to come to earth. A lot of people typically have these awakening symptoms and ascension symptoms in their 20s, typically like their late 20s, around like either solar return or once they kind of get out of like college, away from their parents, away from their hometown, and they start going, oh fuck, like what was I indoctrinated into, right? This was a fucking cult. And I just think like all churches are like cults and culty. I'll get into that on another day, right? Not for this episode. But once I started realizing that, and realizing that I spent my entire life thinking about like, what do my parents want, and what does this religion want of me, and how should I show up so that my family like saves face, and all of these things, I began to realize that I could actually show up as me. Right? I didn't have to be this person that was, so ashamed of my sexuality and kept trying to convince myself I was straight. I did that for years, like years upon years upon years. I was like, oh, I thought I was bi, but I'm really not. I really am straight. Like literally was gaslighted by the church into believing that I was straight because of homophobia, which is so, again, toxic. And yeah. And so this is when I started to learn more about manifestation and learning about how I can create my own reality, and how, like learning about the law of attraction, learning more about spirituality, learning about star seeds. Once I learned about star seeds and I got my first oracle card deck, which was the Work Your Light oracle card deck by Rebecca Campbell. I really like her stuff. She kind of helped me understand what star seeds were and kind of get introduced into this work. She also has a couple of books out. I think one of them that I read was Light is the New Black. And I also got her Starseeds Oracle deck, and just being able to pull cards and starting to learn more about crystals and tarot and astrology really helped me kind of awaken into a world where I was like, oh, this feels really safe and I feel really at home. Not to say that there aren't people within the spiritual community that can be just as unhealthy and toxic and culty and all the things, right? It's like Christianity has its like evangelical Christians that are like hardcore and just like culty as fuck, and just like super shame inducing. Spirituality has people like that too. So it really helped remind me that it is just us as humans versus like any specific like religion or group or community that is going to quote unquote save us, right? Like nothing's ever going to save us. We are the ones that are going to discover that self-actualization and unapologetic, authentic versions of who we are at our core on our own, and not pass that on to a leader, a pastor, a minister, or somebody else. Like we are all gods and goddesses. Like we all have God within us. Even the Bible says that we're made in the image of God, right? So we have this image of who God is. And when I'm really, really like honest with myself about it, it isn't that like I cannot stand the religion of Christianity. It was just the way that it was taught. I think there's so many valuable things about learning about a God and a higher power that loves and protects us and will go to war for us, right? And like has our best interest in mind. I just think that a lot of the ways in which it was taught is interpreted in ways that are harmful, right? So I just want to be clear on that, is like, as I've had more time to reflect, it isn't so much like, and I know I said this earlier in the episode, it isn't so much like fuck the entire religion of Christianity. It's more so like fuck the people that twist and turn verses and the Bible and passages and stories and narratives to shame people like the gay community and like the polyamorous community or the witchy community and the spiritual community, right? It's like thinking that they are the one and only religion, when I've learned about Buddhism and Taoism and Hinduism and all of these different religions that I believe we're all essentially serving the same God. We're just using different names. We're all like, yeah, it's all the same. We're just using different words. You know, we're just like trying to compartmentalize it so that our human brains can kind of like wrap around what's happening and what's going on and try to make sense of it all, right? Which like, I also want to make sure that I don't come from a superiority complex where I'm like, oh, well, I know best and now I know this, like, then I, am my thoughts and opinions are superior than people who are still in religion or whatever it is. And that's not where I'm coming from. These are just my opinions, because obviously I'm going to believe for myself what I think is most true, and you're going to do the same for you, whatever that truth is for you, right? But what I'm saying is like, make sure that you're using critical thinking skills and you're teaching yourself, hey, does this actually align with how I want to live my life and what I want to believe? Or is this just what somebody is teaching me and shoving down my throat? And does it sound and sit right with my psyche? Does it sound and sit right with my intuition and my gut feeling? If not, if something feels wrong, if this feels like something is off or someone is trying to gain profit or to manipulate or to gaslight or to pull me away from making my own decisions, then there might be a problem there, right? And that's all I want to share, is that not all of these environments are inherently toxic and quote unquote bad, but just being aware of what is happening and where the environments are. And so when I began to learn more from Rebecca Campbell and from different like Sahara Rose and Elizabeth April, and learned more about star seeds, I began to discover that I too was a star seed. And star seeds are essentially souls that are born into this existence from another dimension, galaxy, a system, a different planet, and you typically have had multiple lifetimes. So that's why you see it or feel into like past lives that you've had. And this means that you have chosen to come down and assist Earth to help raise the vibration of this planet and help keep it in balance, because there's a lot of things that are just not balanced on this planet, right? So it means that you have been able to do this in other spaces, in other environments, and so you're coming to Earth as a task. Like, this is what your soul chose to do in this lifetime, in this body, the way that you look, the way that you are. You chose to do this. And then my spiritual coach, Asia, she says that like 1% to 2% of the population are star seeds. And she even shared in some of her experiences that, you know, she was one of the original planners of Earth and existed when the gods were there in ancient times. And so these people, you know, and there's different varieties of star seeds, we really care about the ascension and the beings here on Earth. And some star seeds also communicate with the Galactic Federation and the galactic beings off in the in space, right? And so that's a podcast for another time. Elizabeth April EA, if you're interested, she talks a lot about that. And you can, look her up. She's got some really good content on that. But yeah, when I began to understand more about being a starseed and that this is who I am and this is what I was meant to do, I began to explore more about my dharma and my soul mission and what I'm here to do. Like, it came in waves, right? I began like pulling away from the church and the Bible. I began to own my own truth and what was real for me. And I began to experience upgrades from my guides. So like, upgrades are like ascension symptoms that go through your body. Sometimes it feels like electricity. Sometimes it feels like a fucking panic attack. Sometimes it feels like vertigo or dizziness, migraines, headaches, things like that, right? Our guides and the universe and source send us upgrades in small little doses, because if they were to recalibrate our codes, like our energetic codes all at once, we'd die because our human body couldn't handle it. We wouldn't be able to handle it. So they give it to us in little doses so that we can remember a little bit more about past lives, so that we can do a little bit more to help with Earth, so that we can recalibrate in a different way, and so that we can see things and hear things and be more clairvoyant or clairsentient, so that we can just like sense into things, so that we can build our psychic abilities, right? I had a call with my spiritual coach, Asia, yesterday, 2 days ago, and she was telling me that my guides are wanting me to open my channel into more psychic awakening and psychic development in my business and in my life. And I've been getting hints and nudges towards that. And there are things that just happen where I'm like very in tune with the psychic world. The other night, Alaska was literally watching a TV show and I just predicted the entire next scene. And I was like, oh, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. She turned to me and she was like, what? How did you know that? Like, did you watch this? I was like, this is a random kids show you just clicked on for the first time. How would I have known? She was like, how did you know that? I was like, I'm psychic. I just know. And then she like literally flipped back around. She was like, okay, whatever. You're so weird. But yeah, I just feel into things psychically. And I've also been having, this has happened my whole life, but like psychic dreams. And then also when I'm sleeping, I'll like astral project and like lucid dream as well, where I can see into different timelines. Like, I have a karmic relationship with someone who we've been together in past lifetimes. I'll have to do a whole episode on this. DM me if you want to hear about this fucking karmic disaster. Okay, I'm just kidding. It's not a disaster, but it feels like a fucking disaster. Okay. So anyway, we've known each other in past lifetimes, and we have, you know, we've existed on different timelines as well, on the same plane, or even in different planes, where like sometimes I'll dream and see like what's going on between us in different timelines and in different lifetimes. We've experienced things in different lifetimes that have kind of put us at war with one another. And so in this lifetime, we came together, and we've known each other since we were like young teenagers. I've known him since I was 14. And we were meant to like settle our shit in this lifetime. And it doesn't mean that we will or won't be together necessarily. I don't really believe in one soulmate or even one partner. I haven't been like monogamously with one partner for like 5 years now. But I do believe that there is something that this is meant to kind of expand into on in a different realm. So we'll see how that unfolds. So that is just one example of a karmic relationship where I have seen into from past life regressions, and I'll even just feel into and sense past life flashbacks, and will help me understand, oh, this is why I'm learning this lesson with this person in this lifetime. Oh, this is what I haven't learned. So typically what happens is like you'll have all of these past lives, and if you haven't dealt with the lesson you're meant to learn in those past lifetimes, then you're going through another lifetime to kind of learn those lessons again, whether it's like with the same person or with different people, different experiences, things like that, right? And everyone has a different soul mission, but that's typically how that goes. This was also around the time when I started my business, when I was having these spiritual awakenings where I was like really, really burnt out and I was like doing way too fucking much. I know it's kind of hard for some of you to envision because I'm like literally the flow queen now and I'm like so fucking flowy and I'm like, don't shame myself for sleeping until noon. It's like the other day I woke up at like 4 p.m. I'll like sleep all day and I will take naps whenever I want. I don't believe in hustling or pushing yourself to do anything or forcing your body to do anything. But there was a time where I did all of that. And I think the universe gave me those specific lessons so that I can teach against it and so that I can experience a different way of showing up and doing business. So I wasn't taking breaks. I wasn't listening to my body. I was having vertigo, migraines, dizziness. I couldn't see straight. My vision would be blurry. My vision wouldn't be able to focus and I would start like shaking because I would just sit in front of my laptop and work for hours on end. And looking back, I don't even know what the fuck I was doing because there really wasn't that much for me to do. But anyway, I began to learn more about masculine and feminine energies and how we all have masculine and feminine energies, you know, regardless of our genders. Again, gender is created by us. It's a social construct. It doesn't exist. So every single soul, every single human being has feminine and masculine energies. And again, as a refresh, feminine is the being, it's intuition, it's dropping into your body. It's like that sensuality. Masculine is the doing, the action, the strategy, the planning, the pragmatics of like how things are going to be set into motion, right? And we need both of these in the world in order for things to actually be created and done and whatnot. And so, yeah, I remember learning more about like being in tune with my energy and learning like how to actually work within my energy and be able to honor it. And this is where I also learned to honor my flow. So my menstrual cycle, I wouldn't work the week that I'm on my period. And there are like different weeks where I am like either ovulating or I'm feeling really energetic, where I will work or I plan my launches around those dates instead of dates that I'm bleeding. And yeah, so that I've learned so much about my flow and my energy and how that is just so prevalent for how I want to show up in my life. And then I remember around this time, my friend was also having awakening symptoms and she started like coming into her intuition and her psychic abilities. And so she did an energetic intuitive reading for me. Her name's Ariel. She's one of my best friends. And she was telling me that my guides, my spiritual guides, were literally peering off on the sidelines waiting for me to call on them. So every single one of us has guides that are assigned to essentially protect us. Think guardian angels throughout our lifetime from the time we're born until the time we die, right? So these guides are here to help us manifest. They're here to protect us. They're here to essentially help us live our highest potential. But the one caveat is they're not going to jump in unless we call on them. So I remember I had that reading and she was like, your guides are literally waiting for you to like connect with them. Like you need to call them in. And after that, I like laid on the floor and I was crying. So I felt like my life was falling apart. Nothing was making sense anymore. And I was like, please just help me. Like, please, like just come in and like take the reins. And yeah, sometimes the universe is going to shake shit up just so that we can learn and we can call in our guides and call in support and learn specific lessons. And so for things to fall away that we wouldn't have necessarily gotten rid of on our own, because the universe was meant to do it for us, right? Because sometimes we just don't want to let things go. We're fucking stubborn. And so things were falling apart. You know, I was like losing friends. I had like a loss in the family, had a breakup. Looking back, these are all things that like needed to happen, right? There was nothing that I could have controlled. But there was also a lot that I was holding on to. And so it was really important for me to kind of move through this. Yeah. And so it was like a process of allowing things to be burnt down so that I can, like the phoenix, rise from the ashes. And this is just something we're meant to go through in our lives over and over and over. Um, but yeah, that's when I really began to learn more about like my spiritual awakenings and my soul path. It can also feel very lonely, especially when you're integrating back into the matrix of normal society after you've discovered you're a star seed. It's like going back into trying to have normal conversations or like friends that you used to gossip with or whatever. It's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. Like that just doesn't feel right anymore, you know? So that's when it's really, really time to find your soul tribe and your soul people and your soul family and the people that you're meant to be with in this lifetime that are going to help you. There's a lot of my friends now that are certified in Reiki, and we just send each other Reiki healing, and the conversations we have are about making money and supporting one another and our spiritual awakenings and protecting each other spiritually, and having conversations about past lives and our future and our goals and what we're manifesting and all the abundance that's come into our life, and actually like going around and sharing gratitude and what we're grateful for all the time. And it's really beautiful. I've had some really incredible soul sister connections and soul brother connections with people all around the world through Instagram and community, and just opening up myself to these types of connections in the first place. So yeah, I think that's just such an important aspect of learning that you're a starseed and these awakenings, is because like going back into your marriage or your relationship or your family or whatever, like thank God I'm not partnered and I don't plan to be for a while, but I know that I'm the kind of person where I'm a different person every single week, right? If I was like, God forbid, married, I would be probably getting divorced right now, because I'm literally just like meant to, it's in my human design to like make and break connections, which is why I'm like, you know, I'm very sexually fluid. I'm very like open with my sexuality. I just like exploring new connections and meeting new people and being free in that way. That's just what works for me. And I'm in a very healed and grounded place where I do not, you know, it doesn't affect me in that way where it definitely did in the past when I would do that. So yeah, it's just like I'm such a different person than I was. And there are so many things that I just see in a completely different light. Like everything that I approach is different in my life. Like I remember feeling so powerless and so stuck and so empty. I remember nights where I would just cry when I was like deep in like religion, right? Where I would cry when my daughter was a newborn in bed, and just be like, oh my gosh, God, like, why is this happening? Why are you doing this to me? It was very despair, because like the church never taught us to fucking it never taught us like anything that I learned in coaching or therapy. It was always just pray. That's all they would say. It wasn't take responsibility. It wasn't look at your shadows. It wasn't heal your trauma and go and talk to someone about it or reach out for help. It was go and pray about it. God will take away anything. You know, and that was so harmful and so gaslighty for so long, because I was in a literal abusive relationship. I mean, I've been in several, but like in that point in my time, like I was in an abusive relationship, and I had a couple of like unhealthy, you know, connections with the people in my life, including family. And all I heard over and over was like, just pray about it. Like everything happens for a reason, which can be so, so toxic. And so, yeah, I mean, now I'm the high fucking priestess of my life and my business. I literally make money whenever I want to, literally like click my fingers and money flies to me. I'm not even joking. I have created every single thing that I desire in my life. Like everything makes sense. And sometimes nothing makes sense all at once. And I just feel so sovereign. Like I feel like I have full autonomy over everything I'm doing. I've come into my superpowers, literally like a Marvel or like an X-Men movie. Like I've discovered my powers. They found me. Like my hands can heal through Reiki energy. My body can heal itself. I'm eating different. I'm treating my body and nourishing it differently. I decide what happens in my life. I know how to align myself, and I know that everything that happens is happening for me. Like even if I don't get what I want, I know that it's protection. I know that it's a detour from the universe all of the time. So in that sense, I do always get what I want, because even if I don't get the result that I was hoping for, I know that in the long run, that's exactly what needed to happen for me to accept and receive my highest level of joy and abundance. And I also don't shame myself for anything anymore. I have learned to work within my energy and heal my sexual trauma and religious trauma and my sexuality and who I am and what I desire and my like specific desires and joys and pleasures and every single thing about me that I never thought I would be able to embrace. I've been able to embrace. Like, I'm able to like fully be inundated that I chose this personality and this body and this life in this lifetime, in this generation, for a specific reason. And it's been so, so beautiful. So yeah, I mean, that's just like a glimpse. Like, there's so much I've experienced within my spiritual awakening journey and everything that I've been taught about past lives and guides and angels and all of these things that I am learning about and experiencing, and how manifestation has literally changed my life and that I'm able to create the reality that I want. Like, there's just so much beauty and so much autonomy and so much power in the things that I am doing on a daily basis that I was never able to step into. I think that's so, so beautiful, because at the end of the day, we are the ones that have to live with ourselves. Like, we are the ones that are going to have to sit with our decisions and take responsibility for what we are creating. And I think that it is so incredible when we allow ourselves to really be honest about what we want and who we want to be, right? I think a lot of the time it's not that we don't know what we want. It's that we are really afraid to take action towards it because we're afraid of what people will think. But you're never going to look back and wish that you pleased people more, or that you were, more appeasing to people around you. You're going to wish that you were more of yourself and that you were more unapologetic in who you are meant to be, And I just want to say, like, honestly, if you're a starseed or you're experiencing awakening symptoms and you're just like, you feel so alone, like, just literally DM me. I do get like an influx of DMs on a daily basis, but if I see one that's like related to this episode, or you're struggling, or you just need someone to like talk to or vent to, like, I want to be open to that, because I know what it was like being really alone and not having any friends who were going through those same things, right? I had friends who were still in their partying phase from when I was in my partying phase, and then trying to talk to them about this and them going, what do you mean? Like, let's go and drink and get blackout, right? Like, I was not that person anymore, and I really wasn't that person at all, but like I would hang around these people because I just wanted friends. And then when I began to awaken, those same people couldn't be my friends anymore, not because they were bad people, but because they weren't aligned to who I was becoming. And I knew that at a certain point they were going to end up holding me back, and I needed to find a new tribe of people. And so yeah, if you're listening to this and you're in the Bay Area, I am planning a couple of spiritual in-person events, because I know so many spiritual people and they need to meet each other, and we all need to meet each other in person. So if you're from the Bay Area and you for sure are going to make time to come to one of these spiritual events where I'm going to be planning like painting and Reiki and like a little talk about manifestation, and just like connecting with one another. There might even be like sound bowls or breath work or ecstatic dancing, or just like sitting around in circle and just like talking about, and just opening up about our lives and our experiences. If you for sure want to be a part of some of these, just please DM me and I'll make sure that you're the first to know when I have like specific dates and things on the calendar, because I really want to make sure that you are connected to your people. And I might know some of who might be your people. I might be your people. You might be my people. You probably are. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm in the Bay Area, and so that's just what's convenient for me now. But I do plan to do more live events in LA. And honestly, if you're not too far away, or even if you are, I would think about flying down for some of these events just to be with your people, because there's so much magic that happens in real life and in person. And yeah, I've shared some like sneak peeks with my Business Activation Academy students and my Magic Mind students, and some of them are planning to fly down for some that are happening at the end of the month. And so yeah, I'm just really excited to be able to host, more things in person and to connect more people together, because I think that we as starseeds just really need to stick together. And regardless of like where you are in that journey, whether you're like in the very beginning, or maybe you're just considering this, or maybe you're still part of a religion, or you were raised with a religion, and all of this just makes you feel kind of like uncomfortable, but yet you're still curious, I would say just explore, right? Like, what is the harm in exploring and asking questions and being in these environments where you can learn more about being a part of what it's like to be in a soul family, where you unapologetically are loved and welcomed and supported, right? Gosh, I should start my own cult. Obviously I'm totally kidding, but yeah, message me. I want to bring us together, and I think that this would be a really beautiful thing. So, that's really like a very shortened rundown version of my spiritual awakening and journey. I mean, this all happened very gradually. It did not happen overnight. There was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of trying to talk to people and then ending up talking to the wrong people who didn't understand what I was going through and kept trying to pull me either back into the church or into other things, or just not being able to hold space for me in the way that I expected. And so I think also when you're talking to someone about this, like just being intentional about who you're speaking to, and also like keeping a diary, right? Keeping a journal that you write in every so often to kind of keep track of like, what are some dreams? What are some symptoms? What are things you're experiencing? What are things that are coming up for you, right? Typically a spiritual awakening happens when there are things in your life that kind of need to fall down in order for you to rebuild in a completely different way. Like, it's literal, like the tower card in tarot, like let the tower crumble, because literally what you rebuild is going to be 1,000 times stronger. It's like a foundation that's not strong and not aligned, and you're letting it come down all the way so you can rebuild it from scratch into the identity, the unapologetic, authentic you that you came here to be, that you decided, hey, this is who I'm going to be in this lifetime. Yes, it's scary. Yes, I might lose friends. Yes, my family might judge me. Yes, I might lose out on opportunities, right? But it's going to be you living your life as a free bird instead of being caged up. You are going to be the cheetah that runs wild. You're going to be the bird that flies free instead of being behind bars, and just kind of like caged through your own self-imposed limitations that you think what other people will think about you, right? Instead of all of that, you allow yourself to be exactly who you're meant to be. Okay, please send me a message if this episode resonated with you. Please leave a review on iTunes, Apple, if this podcast has awoken anything in you. And yeah, I just want to be able to connect with you and share with you. My links are in the show notes. I have a Kajabi storefront where you can check out some of my offers. If you want to join Business Activation Academy, it is always open. If you are here wanting to turn your gifts as a healer, as a mystic, as a starseed, as a coach, you want to discover your magic and create your first coaching offer, work with your first paying clients, Business Activation Academy is the place for you. And yeah, just stay up to date on my Instagram with any updating, with any upcoming events and things like that. And I will catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe. If this episode resonated with you, please take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, and tag me at tiffanychung.co. I truly appreciate interacting with every one of you. Catch you all on the next one.